Hey guys, Tom Barclay here in Bodo, in the Arctic Circle. I've just arrived, just got off my flight. The time is just gone about 10:30, in fact, probably more like about 11:15 by now. As you can see, still very bright out here. It's this, what I've seen so far, but lovely little town. I mean, literally my hotel is about a 20-minute walk from the airport, so I've just got out and walked. I don't know if you can see in the background there or if it's really picking it up. There are some mountains back there. And there's this beautiful lake behind me. And as you can see, sort of over here is where the town is and where a lot of the hotels are. So if you're coming out here, that's probably where you're staying. It's obviously very quiet. I mean, to be fair, it is Tuesday evening right now. It's actually not that cold. Bear in mind, it's 11:15. I'd say it's probably like 5 or 6 degrees, but unlike England this last few days where there's been quite an icy wind, given how hot the temperatures have been recently, it's very calm here, as you can tell from the water behind me. And I'd have to say, going into this fixture, Spurs would have been really worried about the temperature and snow and the conditions. And obviously there's the plastic pitch which I'll get a look at tomorrow, but they could not have asked for more if the conditions are like this come Thursday evening, because it's just a pretty pleasant evening, a bit chilly, but when you're playing football, probably perfect for football. Anyway, I thought I'd do a little video. I hadn't done one for a few days. I wasn't at the West Ham Spurs game, which is probably a sign of the times, really, of how irrelevant those Premier League games are becoming. I was at Brighton Newcastle instead, so I'm not going to do anything on that match. But there's been a few sort of bits and bobs that have popped up since then ahead of this game, which I think are worth talking about. So to kick it off, I'd say James Maddison. I mean, we did fear the worst for him, didn't we? I mean, we'll find out more tomorrow, hopefully. But, I've seen reports already that he could be out for the season. That, I'll be honest, was my initial fear as soon as we saw him come off in the first leg with that knee problem. Because, the phrase out for the season sounds quite dramatic, doesn't it? But let's be honest, there's a couple of weeks left, albeit a crucial couple of weeks. And he's been playing really well. So if that does prove to be the case, that'll be an absolute hammer blow. And will be the time, really, for Tottenham's own Scandinavian, as they are here in Norway, in their Swedish star Dejan Kulusevski, to really have to step up, because with no Bergvall and no Maddison, there is a distinct lack of creativity in that midfield, which Kulusevski has shown that he can fill the void, kind of in different ways. I mean, at the start of the season, he was by hands down Tottenham's best player, making things happen all the time. What I like about him in the middle compared to when he's out wide is he's more unpredictable. It's a bit of I use the phrase agent of chaos with Richarlison. That would be a bit unfair on Kulusevski. He's technically a better player than that, but he tries things which you probably don't expect. Little flicks here and there when he's at his best there, and that can make things happen, sort of unpredictable things happen, as opposed to with Maddison just having brilliant quality on the ball, but he normally does things a bit more sort of what you'd expect. But I like that unpredictability about Kulusevski. But obviously he's had his own injury problems this season. The second half of the season has been pretty flat from Kulusevski's point of view, and by all accounts his performance at West Ham was pretty underwhelming. And the concern is that, having just come back from his own foot injury himself, that it may take a while to get up to top speed. But Spurs haven't got long, have they? They've got this game that their season is riding on to get to that final out in Bilbao. They're obviously got a foot in the final, though, that 2-goal advantage from the first game. But to see it over the line is going to be a battle, because Bodo are very good at home, as we all know, and seen off a lot of very, very strong teams this season alone, in the likes of Porto, Olympiacos, Lazio in the last round, and more. So Kulusevski, I feel, is going to have to be a really crucial player on that front, and I'll probably go into that a bit more in tomorrow's match preview. Today I'm just going to do a sort of wrap up of the latest news. I think the next thing to come on to is some nice images, or nice video actually, on a social media of Radu Dragusin running again. I think out in Turkey, if I only saw it briefly before I got on the flight, but good to see him sort of getting back to fitness. Obviously it's a long way back when it comes to an ACL injury, and he was never going to be back for this season, but fingers crossed he's on a good path, and I'll try and find out, see where he's at on that path, and whether he can be back for August, because I think that was what he was aiming for to begin with the start of next season. So but good to see him running again. We saw him the other day, didn't we, at the home game, sort of alongside Sonny, and he seemed to be up and down celebrating and kicking every ball like Sonny was. So not surprising perhaps to see him make the next step up on that front. And I guess tomorrow we'll also find out about Sonny, whether he's going to play again this season or whether he's going to be fit for the final. It looks like, be surprised if he's involved in this game here, but we'll see. There's been a bit of chat from on the Cristian Romero transfer front again. It feels like a lot of stuff, a lot of noise, I guess is the best phrase to put it, has been coming out the Atletico Madrid end regarding Romero's transfer, or from Romero himself as a possible move on that front. And the latest sort of addition to that has been his compatriot and fellow World Cup winner Julian Alvarez, who we know well in England from his time at Man City, talking to the media. I mean, presumably he was asked the question, but he hasn't shut it down. He said how much he'd like Romero to join join him at Atletico, and how it's a family over there and how he enjoyed the atmosphere. So it feels like there seems to be a bit of a concerted effort. I don't know if it's orchestrated, I wouldn't say that far, but it seems to be a lot of noise, as I said, coming from the Atletico Madrid end and Romero himself over a possible transfer to there this summer. And as I said before, go check out that video I did a few weeks ago, I think, after you did that initial interview, where I said I think if Spurs get 60 million or even close to 60 million from Romero, they probably should snap their hands off. I know he's a very good player. I know, that Frankfurt performance sort of underlined what a crucial player he can be for this team, but he's not good enough if his heart's not in it. There are a handful of players in that bracket, and I don't think probably Spurs have any of those players. And if Romero's heart's really not in it, and given his injury record, if he wants to go to Atletico Madrid, so long as they stump up the money, and that'll be a big factor on that front. It does feel a bit like this is almost trying to put pressure on Spurs, all this noise, to sort of maybe accept a lower bid. I don't know, I'm just reading too much into it, and I imagine they won't do that because Daniel Levy doesn't work like that. But you would think maybe that would be the best move if they can go and find a replacement in the summer. But that's the latest on the Romero front. Also, quite a big moment earlier today. There's obviously been a lot of talk about the Spurs Aston Villa game, or away at Aston Villa Park, which was billed for Sunday, and Tottenham trying to get them to move it with the Premier League to another date earlier, given that Man United, if they get to the final, they're very likely to face, because they're 3-0 up on aggregate against Bilbao, going into the second leg at home. We'll play on Friday night already, so it would give them a bit of a head start. Villa didn't seem to want this to happen, but it has been switched. I was told originally that it was unlikely to be on the Friday, but Friday it is. I think because of the fact that United were already playing on there and the TV schedule, but it looks like Sky have made it work that I think both games are going to be televised, or at least I'm pretty sure the Spurs game will be, and I presume Man United will be as well still. So that's the way it's worked out. Spurs going to be playing on the Friday night. Bit of a late night trip, I guess, for fans going up there, up to Aston Villa for what will no doubt be a rotated side from Tottenham's point of view. That's the irony of it, isn't it, really, that yes, they would have been Sunday, would have had a bit less time to train compared to United, or prepare for the final. But let's be honest, they would have played a completely rotated team anyway. I still expect them to, like they have in recent weeks. So how much of a difference it would have made, I don't know, but I'm sure Ange Postecoglou will be happy with that arrangement in the end. And it doesn't look like Villa are particularly happy themselves. I mean, just looking at their Twitter feed, they've been retweeting their own sporting director and other sort of officials at the club, Monchi and some other officials at the club, about how unhappy they were with this and didn't want this to happen, but sort of reluctantly agreed to it. So it's been a story that I've been checking in with the Premier League and Tottenham for every day, like in the last few weeks, or last week or so, wondering when we were going to update. We finally have. So I guess a little win from Spurs' point of view on that front with that fixture moving. And then just finally, I guess when I've mentioned Harry Kane on here before, I've often got the feedback from you guys that don't really care anymore, you're not interested because he's no longer Spurs. But to be fair, he is probably, in my mind, at least Tottenham's greatest ever player in the modern age, at least. And I think it's good to see him finally win that trophy for winning the Bundesliga title. Still not sure Bayern was the right move for him. As I've said many times, I think he should have stuck it out if possible for a free transfer and gone somewhere else. But good to see him finally win a trophy. And Eric Dier as well. Two players who, from a personal point of view, Harry Kane is someone I often speak to in the mix zone for England and for Tottenham when he was here. It's not like there's any kind of personal relationship there, but during my time covering both, he's always been very affable. Obviously for the England team, he's the captain, so he has to. But I'm quite happy for him. And for Dier, I think I mentioned this before, but it's probably one of the most standout interviews I've ever done. In Singapore during Ange's first pre-season tour, after the Delhi interview with Gary Neville, I remember interviewing him just briefly for 10-15 minutes at a Singapore charity during pre-season, and I asked him about the Delhi interview where he'd sort of very sadly had revealed to Neville about I think it was sexual abuse that he suffered as a child and all the things he'd been going through. And I asked Eric about him because we're such good friends, and he broke down in tears, and it is definitely something that I will remember for a lot. He felt like he could have done more, and just very painfully honest. And I think, Dier, I almost felt like I was talking as a colleague today about whether he was a bit of a scapegoat of the last few years at Tottenham and the way he left. Yes, he wasn't the quickest, but he was a technically good player. You don't get 49 caps like you do, like he has done for England, and be as good as he has been. And then, I don't know whether they've missed him as much as I made the case about Pierre this season. But he was better than people gave him credit for, and But having said that, I don't think maybe we would have tipped him to have had the sort of post-Spurs career like he has. He's gone on to do brilliantly at Bayern. Tuchel really liked him. Then Company comes in, doesn't really fancy him, but then he seems to have been playing in recent weeks, maybe through injury or just winning them over. And I remember watching the Bayern Inter game, which Bayern ultimately lost in the quarterfinals of the Champions League out in Frankfurt in a bar there. And Dier's performance was excellent. I think he scored in the game, had goal line clearance, and it looks like he's got a 3-year deal to Monaco to follow up. So well done, Eric, I suppose. A sort of nice story on that front. But if you're not so bothered about sort of Tottenham stalwarts past and past like Kane and Dier, then nice way to finish is to talk about Jamie Donley, who in amongst a difficult season for Tottenham, which obviously could have a triumph at the end. They go all the way in the Europa League, but obviously a very difficult domestic season. Donley's been on loan at Leyton Orient and has done really well. He has been named their player of the season. He has got 10 assists in the league, which apparently is more than any other player. He obviously had that fantastic non-goal against Man City in the FA Cup, where he struck it from so far out and it ended up being an own goal, but it was a fantastic moment to sort of really bring him into sharp focus for the wider public. But it's like a really good season, really good to see from a young Spurs player like he is, and it'd be interesting to see how or if he gets brought into the fold next season. You would think, to be fair, with if they don't go all the way in get qualified for the Champions League, it's odd, isn't it? Like either no European football or the Champions League, which is where we're at with Tottenham. At least it makes it simple. Thursday nights will not be a regular thing anymore. Thursday, Sunday next season at least for Tottenham. But if they don't get there, then they are going to have to trim that squad. It'd be interesting to see if Donley plays a part, if he goes out on loan again. But it's good to see him have a really impactful season, and maybe someone that I, along with all the other loanees, perhaps might do a roundup video of how they got on this season, what we can expect next for them, try and find out a bit more about what the plans are, and I'll let you know. Anyway, from Bodo, as I've been told to pronounce it, and it is literally, what time is it now? Oh no, it's 10:30, okay, so it's not quite as late as I thought it was, but it's, is it 10:30? I don't know, seems pretty late, but either way, it doesn't look like it's going to be dark for a while now, and I'm not sure if this is quite picking it up, but the sky, bear in mind I was half hoping I might see the Northern Lights. I'm not sure I will do, but the sky is pretty awesome out here. I'm not sure it's been quite picked up on this video or not. But anyway, I will do a video post the press conference tomorrow, and obviously post the game, and I'll speak to you then. Cheers, guys.